Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Joelle, and I go by the moniker the Viberarian. So you may have seen my ad on Astra, or you may have just been coming in for coffee and wondered what all the fuss is about. But as a Viberarian, my personal mission is to elevate, enlighten, and empower people with information. So I love Ad Astra as a space. I'm not from here. My parents live in Salina, and I live in Atlanta, so I come here frequently to visit them, and every time I do, I come into this space because I always love the atmosphere. There are people off in the corners reading, playing games with each other. When I saw the activities like old vinyl night and open mic, I was like, how awesome is this? So I always try to come in and patronize the establishment, also because I'm a librarian. So I love books just personally as well. So to come out of the big box and to come into a space where you can find treasures, books that have been passed on so that others can read them, and local authors. I just think it's a throwback to an energy that I really love, and I'm glad to see spaces like this thriving. So when I wanted to come, I saw the owner last week, and she was talking a little bit about her story of Ad Astra and bringing this space into a creative new way of serving the community in the coming years and months. I thought this is beautiful because it's a perfect environment to have a conversation with anyone who is interested in participating about what it means to craft a life that you absolutely resonate with, a life that you wake up in the morning feeling enthused about, one that is filled with ease and grace. And I, for one, personally am very excited because places like Ad Astra are representative to me of that kind of vibrancy. And places that people are creating out of their love of something that they then want to share with other people. I think that that seed is flowering amongst the people now, and it is beautiful to see, but it is also challenging as well. As we know, nothing stays the same. We are always in a state of flux in our energy, from our cellular levels to just where we are in physical space at any given time. To think that we are not moving at any given moment is rather an illusion. So to be able to stand in a place of awareness about what you are then experiencing, rather than being a passenger of that experience, learning how to shift into a place where you are the driver of that experience, or at least navigating the waves of the world in a way that is beneficial to you and makes your life easier as you move into the flow. So I have been in corporate information for many decades, and a few years ago I felt this call in me where I was unsatisfied with the life that I had really worked a long time to build myself into professionally. But once I got to a certain place, I was not finding time for myself. I was the last on the list. I was not finding time to do things that would just pass me by because I'd be too busy, too tired, too worn out, too focused, too purpose. And I was going in all these directions, and slowly my life kind of moved me to a place where I had to see if this was something I wanted to continue doing or what I was going to do, because I just was not feeling like getting up in the morning, right? So in the process of doing that, I found a way to take certain risks. You know, growing is a risky business. So staying in the same pattern is very familiar, right? It gets comfortable when you start to take a left turn somewhere. You have to wonder, is this turn going to be right? Am I going to end up in the thicket? Am I going to get set back? What am I going to encounter? So we're able to, and hopefully we'll definitely have time to talk about that, move into the risk space of following those urges that are leading us to somewhere that might be foreign to us. So over the period of years, as I started looking out at the information that was available to me, I started reading a lot of the very familiar people, Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle, Wayne Dyer, pretty much anyone that you would see on the circuit on TV and in the consciousness communities and forums that is talking about new ways that are emerging for people to approach their life. So you've heard of maybe the law of attraction, the secret, the frequency. There's all kinds of things that have cropped up over the last few decades. But to me, what all those movements and tactics and strategies and theories are still just speaking to a universal way that people are finding a way through a path. They're sharing that way, and every time somebody decides that they've discovered a new way for the path, they turn around and pass that on. So in the spectrum of people and how they have evolved themselves, we really can pick from any number of spaces to gain information from. It may be that we can align with a meditation practice if that speaks to us. Exercise practice, there's all kinds of different ways. And what happens is people start to feel like, you know what, I'm not feeling comfortable with my life, but I'm not ready to go join a Buddhist monastery and meditate for 30 days in silence in Thailand. Okay? Maybe the way that I shift my life is a little less radical than that. I appreciate that this person is now teaching that you can go to on your own kind of eat, pray, love experience to find yourself. But that path may not resonate with you in particular, so you can begin to feel like, well, maybe there just is no path for me. And what I learned is that ultimately, I really do know what is best for me. Now, where we can look at things and say, you know what, I can tell you what I don't like about my life, but I can't tell you what I really want to do next. And we get in that kind of stasis like, well, if I can't tell you exactly what I'm going to do next, then it's not okay for me to leave, right? Because we've been taught to look at our lives in a linear perspective. If this, then that. If I go to work, I will get a promotion. I will earn more money. I will buy a bigger house. We learn to do these things. And our society is shaped in such a way that it can feel extremely risky to say, well, you know what, I don't want to do this job anymore, when it puts your whole financial ability to house yourself, to feed yourself, to feed and care for your family. It puts a whole lot of different pressure on your personal feelings about your life when you say, you know what, maybe my feelings are, I'm going to sacrifice those right now because I want to do this for my kids, or I want to do that. There's any number of reasons why we can prioritize certain conditions over our overall happiness. But what I have found is that sometimes we do that just a little too much. And we get out of balance to a place where we are not living, we are just existing. And at some point, it can be said then that we don't really have a choice about change. Because even if we try to then just suppress something, or just, you know, maybe now is not the time for me, I can do it next year. You know what, maybe in 5 years when the kids go to college, maybe after I get my degree, there's all kinds of pathways that it could take. So we can shift things around. But what I say is that the time right now is truly one of the most fertile periods that we have energetically for you and I to really move into a space where the risks that we take will return greater rewards, where our movement towards that which we envision can happen much faster than what we have previously even thought possible. By that I mean, if you are one day sitting in your office and someone comes in and they're sneezing and coughing and you know they're probably bringing germs into your environment, you can begin to say, oh, I'm gonna catch a cold. I'm gonna catch a cold. Oh, I'm probably gonna catch a cold. I just know, I just picked up some germs. She sneezed, she didn't even cover her nose, right? You are probably, however, with your own assistance to the energy, not just the germs that were probably in your reality, but because of your assuredness in your mental state of what you were telling yourself and what energy you were putting out there, you reinforced the opportunity for that to be your reality. Whereas if you were a person who saw people in the office doing that same thing and said, oh, I never get sick. I don't worry about that. I never get sick. There's always that one person who never have you seen miss a day of work. And they'll usually tell you, oh, I never get sick. But the people who get sick a lot will tell you, oh, I'm always sick. I always catch a cold in the fall. Oh, I always catch something right after school starts, right? And that becomes their reality. So in our current energetic space, society is really going through a crucible. I mean, we're all in very different places politically. There are a lot of divisions between anything possible that a division can exist between ages, between nationalities, between sports rivalry teams. You know, it's a lot of ways that we can remove ourselves from connection to others. On the surface, that's what you will see if you watch the news. That's what if you watch the Facebook feeds, you'll hear nothing necessarily more but a lot of reinforced perspective that is a lot of negativity. But if you move away from that and you come into a space like at Astra on a Wednesday night and you hear somebody doing a poem that other people have come out to listen to just to experience their creativity, that is not the reality that you're seeing projected. But it is certainly the reality that you're living, right? So by choosing to come to even a place like this, or to have a conversation, or to hear a local artist, to purchase a local thing in your economy, to really experience the place where you are, that is happening more and more all over the world in places. But you will not see it presented as the reality necessarily, depending on where you are focusing. So more and more people, independently of each other, are actually deciding to come more into spaces like this. So much so that this business continues to thrive. It's not in danger of being closed due to lack of local support, right? It's not being squeezed out because it can't survive economically. So that is evidence that there are people who want to experience this kind of environment. To me, then, making sure that I come to places like this to talk with people about where they are in their lives and what does your life look like, what are you feeling, what do you envision for yourself. That is the kind of conversation when you sit across from people and find out who they are and what they're doing and how they did what it is they're doing, then we are all enlarged by that experience. So tonight I wanted to just talk with you about the energies, because 2018, if you look in numerology, is actually a number that equals 11. And what this is known as is a global year. So 11 is a frequency of creation. When we look down to computers and to numbers, 0 is the place when the computer is off, and when the 1 gets there, then the computer or the function turns on. In terms of shapelessness, 1 is when something then is formed out of that shapelessness. So we have a year when the huge potential to really create something, a reality that you value, not say a reality that is presented to you, a reality that you want to exist in. The year is now and the opportunity is now. And what you will find if you look at people's lives is that in the last 3 years or so, you probably hit a place where a cycle in your life, either a marriage, a job, a residence, a child went away to college, a life transition, would have probably been something that you experienced in the last 2 to 3 years. Many people heard about the solar eclipse last summer and went to places where you could view that experience. And there was a lot of energy that accompanies eclipses where it parallels within our reality the things that we are being shown. So in eclipses, the sun is covered or the moon is covered, and so the usual dance or the usual presence of their particles in our atmosphere, sunlight, moonlight, their gravitational pull, all of the things about them disrupt everything on our planet. From the birds going quiet at the peak of nature going quiet, to actual things in our lives. So if we have an opportunity to see in stark contrast in the light of day, we get a chance now to really see our world for what it is. We can see through the internet, through any number of cameras, feeds, posts. We can see what reality has been created globally. We can see people starving. We can see people being victims of violence. And that can trouble us and cause us great destruction. But in seeing that, then we are faced with, is this who we are? Is this something we want to collectively still create as a society? And when people say either yay or nay to those things, then they start to align their energy into whichever dynamic resonates with where they want to be. The more we see the negative of the world, it really brings people to such a place of deeper commitment to not be that. You know, we would think that the trolls coming out in the comments and all the ugly things, that it pulls people out of the woodwork and that you can't get into the comment sections because it's super negative. But it happens just the opposite too. When you see people doing good, you see people doing things that are positive and impacting, you can say, I want to add my energy to that just as easily as you could to be a troll or commenter online. So as we see these things, we can now say, okay, I'm going to move into this dynamic. So the opportunity is like never before for us to, after concluding whatever cycle, there is a period of time before the seed truly emerges. If we look at the seasons of planting and harvest, those patterns are present within nature on all levels, and that includes us. We're living beings like plants and trees and flowers. So just like there are seasons of fallow ground when everything is dormant and being restored, and times of blossom, times of growth, and times of harvest. This is reflected also within our personal realities as well. So in the last year or two, you might have been feeling like, well, that is over. Okay, I wasn't necessarily expecting to be divorced, but that's what happened. Wow, I wasn't expecting to have changed jobs, or I never thought I would move, or I never thought that friendship would have changed in the way that it did. There have been something that most people could probably say, you know what, that is true. And although I've changed since then, I feel like I'm not done yet. I'm not where I'm going. And what I'm here to say is there is a reason why you may not yet know where you are going. The timing right now of this year and the energy, as well as the eclipses, which have been happening quite regularly over the last 4 months or so this year, all of these things are showing us and giving us an opportunity to figure out, do we want to be where we are? You know, here I am maybe in this situation again, or here's this person from the past, or an old something coming to mind, and I thought I was done with this, but here it is. And you know what? I'm still pissed at them, or I'm still hurt by this, or you know what? I'm still a little bitter. I thought I was over that, but that might have hurt a little bit, right? So some things might have been prodding us, or some maybe deep family issues that we didn't even know existed, like secret children, childhood trauma, abuse, all of a sudden coming out the woodwork. I recently found out about something in my family that I was absolutely shocked. That was like a deeply emotional thing that was going to take, conversation and healing around. It was a BFD, you know, it was like a really big deal, and you would think that it would have been something that would have come up before now. So that's the kind of experience you might be having had in the last 4 to 6 months, is something that really kind of blindsided you that says, I thought this would have come up by now. I thought I would have been over this by now, but here it is. And once we look at that and are working through clearing that out of, resolving whatever it is, really seeing ourselves and being faced with an aspect of ourselves that we might not have been aware of, to say, okay, now that I'm aware of it, I can't ignore it. What do I want to do with it? I don't know. I might want to sit with that mad, with mad Joelle for a while. You know what? Maybe I still want to be angry for a few weeks about this, right? And that's okay if it takes me a few weeks, or if I all of a sudden have an emotion that takes me back to a place that I thought I'd left. It is what it is. It was brought to my attention so I could see what it really was, and then be honest with myself about it, rather than saying, oh yeah, girl, you're over that. It doesn't bother you a bit. How you doing? You know, that kind of coding or mask, or putting oneself aside to say, you know what, I feel like I should have been over it by now. And I really rushed my process. It was okay for me not to be over it yet, but now I'm gonna go ahead and let it go, right? So it can look a lot of different ways, but we are basically clearing this up because we are moving into an ever higher opportunity to be whoever it is we want to be. And that means clearing out the things that we didn't enjoy, the places and spaces where we went that no longer are really meeting our need. We don't fit anymore. We're giving an opportunity to say, let's maybe shift a pattern. Am I doing this out of habit, or am I doing it because I really want to continue contributing my energy to this dynamic? And I would challenge to say that a lot of you would be able to say, I have had to go through this at this environment with this person. I've been feeling that, and that there is a commonness more so than we realize until we start sharing stories and talking with each other about where we are. Then we find out, you know what, it is a collective experience. That's weird that you changed jobs last year. I changed jobs last year too. Huh, you started your own business? Wow, how'd you do it? I've been thinking about doing that too, or I just did that myself. Or I went back to school too. You find out that a lot of people are doing them in a new way, right? So if you have anything that you have experienced that is similar with this really is a conversation. Like, I would love to know, are you feeling like you are living your life? Where do you feel challenged that you aren't? Like, share, if you would, share something that either you're succeeding at, or a place that you left in a place that you're going, or any other thing that the conversation so far this evening has sparked in you as an idea or an aha moment. Just, you're invited to just call out if you don't want to come to the mic. And I want to tell you, my best friend Tanya is here. She flew in from Atlanta just to be here for the conversation. She's also visited Salina before and loves, coming to the Midwest to hang out with me when I'm visiting here. So it's wonderful to be able to be in space with people sharing just because, So does anybody have a comment?
Yeah, I'll comment. Hi, everybody. Well, I will say, I'll get the mic. How's everybody doing today? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Maybe just turn around.
Okay, got it. All right, how's everybody doing?
No, turn around. Just turn around.
Okay, great. I love that. All right. Well, just like Joelle is saying, I had one of those moments. I was in a corporate job for 16 years, and I didn't know that I wanted to leave, but I did want to leave. She knew I wanted to leave. We talked about me leaving. Oh, I don't know how I'm going to do it, why I'm going to do it. I really love my job, but then I thought, no, I like what I do. I don't have to be here to do it. And I can just leave. So my son graduated college. I got done paying for all of that. My younger son was in school, and he needed me full time. I'd had a nanny at home for 2 years, taking care of my son and everything while I worked full time, until I finally said, well, this is not serving me. I am not happy. I'm going to leave. But when I told them I was leaving, they didn't want me to leave. They said, well, what can we do to make you stay? Can we just keep you? Right. So they said, well, you can just be part-time. We'll take that. You can work from home and just whatever. I said, okay. I swallowed. I said, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it. You're only telling me I have to work 6 hours a day for you, and this is easy. I did it for about 3 months until I said, no, this is not serving me. I am not happy. I would like to be a full-time mother. I'd like to take care of my family, and I like to do what I want to do. That's it. That's what I did. October of last year, the day before my birthday, that was my birthday present to me. Freedom, complete freedom. And I didn't know how this was going to happen, how that was going to happen. My husband supported me fully, supported me. That's amazing. It all worked out. I mean, it took about 4 months, but after things started to happen, it was like, I can't even believe it. If I told you everything that happened, you would not believe it. But if it's supposed to be and you're supposed to do it, a way will be made.
It's absolutely true that what you want for yourself, what you feel inside that is something that really is valuable to you, is placed there for a reason. It's not an accident, and it's not meant for it not to be part of your energy. That's why you want it, because it feels good in your energy. If you like baking pies, right? And you're an awesome pie baker. It's been put in you to make really great pies and for that to be pleasing to people, right? So a lot of times what we'll say is, I'm not going to be able to bake pies. I can just do it as a hobby because I got to go work. I got to get a job, I got to do this, I got to do all these other things, right? And so you set aside that which was important to you, that was of value. And what I learned is that if I decided I wanted to experience something, I may not know what that something looks like, but I know I want to be joyous when I get up to go do what it is my skill is going to do in the morning. If it's making an awesome cafe macchiato like the young lady made, right? Then she's like, what can I make for you? And she says it with a smile, and then I heard her say to the guy, oh, I make it. You know, he said, this is good. She's like, yes, I know, right? Because she knew that she made a really good cup of coffee for him, right? That energy that you're getting from her is infused in your experience of having the coffee here, right? So it may be that at some point in time, she's growing coffee beans in her backyard and, you know, has a brand of coffee beans that's her signature because it was in her to do something that was contributory in a positive way, right? So a lot of times we think, how can I do this? If I leave my job, I have to do this, and I have to do that, I'll have to have a savings account, I'll have to do that, what will I do for insurance? If we move out of linear and say, I want to have time to do pie baking. I want to have time to be with my child who needs me. I want, in my case, it was to have time to come to see my aging father who has health issues. My corporate job may have afforded me the salary and income to survive, but it was not contributing me the time that I needed to spend with the actual person who I cared about. So what I said was, you know what, I gotta find a way to have more time with my parents. I didn't know that that would eventually lead to me quitting said job and then going, you know, independent kind of, my parents thought I went off the rails, you know what I'm saying? Because I did kind of ride out the corporate exit, you know, with the lasso and a cowboy hat, like, woo, you know. But it was my experience, and nobody else had to really understand my experience and what it was like for me to ultimately leave that job, right? So I didn't know where my path would lead, but I knew what I wanted to feel. So for days, and as I thought about things, I didn't stress. I thought about it with excitement, like, okay, if life doesn't look like this, what don't I like about my day? Like, I have to commute an hour every day in Atlanta traffic to get there, and an hour every day to get home. I don't like the fact that I work in an industry that I think is plagued by ethical problems, and people, although what they're doing is legal, I don't feel it's always right. And that's feeling a kind of way for me personally as I contribute my, you know, I just wasn't liking those things. So what would I would like to be somewhere where my information is valued, where I'm using my librarian superpowers for good instead of using them for questionable things, you know, for attorneys. I wanted to do it for people who I knew the information would matter. So all I started doing was thinking about what I wanted to feel, right? I don't want to dwell on what I'm feeling that's bad. I don't want to just be in the cycle of, right? Oh, this person again. Oh, that reality again. No, I want to think about the happy life as if I could have it, not as if it's some kind of fantasy that will never be able to happen for me. But I want to think about, okay, tomorrow I wake up and I'm growing coffee beans in my backyard. Oh, it's beautiful. Do you see how lush the plant is? Do you smell how rich the aroma is? Like, that's the kind of feeling about doing that thing that you love. It's the little details that really get you off. You know what I'm saying? If you're a pie baker, you love the way the dough feels in your hands, right? I don't get it. I can't bake. My dough is very unflaky. You know what I'm saying? But for the person who gets into that, that's their thing. They get into it. So whatever it is about your thing, think about what it would feel like if every day you woke up and you were going to get paid to do your thing. Her thing was managing the hell out of people, okay? And she'll manage anything that's in her arena for profit or not. But she enjoys managing, right? So she said, I don't want to not work. I always want to manage people, and I've already got my husband well managed. So I need more challenges, right? So, but I don't want to not be this part of myself that I love, and I shouldn't have to sacrifice that, right? Now, it took a period of adjustment for her, like I said, months after she was mad after she left, and like, well, I don't know why I had to leave. I should have never had to leave. They should have done better by me. You know, it was like an adjustment period. And then she's like, well, it's boring. I'm not doing anything. And then slowly, the things around her that needed managing, her son's football team, this Montessori school board, her friends' businesses, you know, all these things started coming up. But then she could manage the head, you know, go ahead. Yes, thank you. I've been needing a manager, right? Here, I can pay you this amount of money. Here, we can do that. We can barter, we can exchange. She gets to do what she wanted to do, the part that she enjoyed every day. She gets to be supported by income and experiences in order to do that she never thought she could envision to do. Same thing with me. I get to do what I always wanted to do, which was pass along information. I read a lot of things, I uncover a lot of things. It's wonderful to be able to earn a living doing that. But I love just coming places and sharing things like this a lot more than I love researching facts and figures for attorneys that I work for at law firms, right? So it's beautiful because now after 2 years, after leaving one completely and kind of going on a sabbatical, then starting to recraft myself to say, well, what do I want to do? Now I'm actually doing both things, right? I never expected, I thought it was either or. Either I'm over here in this space or I'm over here, I'm either the librarian or the Viberarian, and never the two will meet, right? But now, my life is living in a place today where I'm doing both things. In a way I never ever thought logically, you could not have told me that like the pieces on the chessboard, I don't know chess, I don't know checkers very well, but certainly not chess at all. But it turned out that the thing that I intended, which was to be able to spend time with my parents, to get to see the world, to travel, to get to deliver information to people, I'm now, after 4 or 5 years, actually living that reality. And the chess pieces have moved and made really good moves, unbeknownst to me. I didn't understand some of the moves that my life was taking, but what I learned to do was understand myself. I learned to trust my feeling about something. I learned to say it's okay that I don't like this job that I worked really hard to be really good at, and I don't like it anymore. And you know what? It has to be okay because that's where I am with it, right? So coming into a place of self-acceptance and being able to say, yes, my experience of my reality does matter. In fact, that is really the only thing that matters, is my experience of this world. So that can be very challenging because we all have stakeholders, right? Be it spouses, parents, children, close friends, employers, people who have a vested interest in how we are living our lives. Whether that vested interest is appropriate or not really is the determination of the parties who are exchanging it. You and your employer may feel like, you know what, when I leave work, you don't need to call my phone. My time is my time after that. We don't have a connection. And sometimes you can have a connection with your employer that extends to any time of day or night that you are available for exchanges in a workspace. And if that works for you to be an on-call dynamic, and if that employer needs that, then it can be a mutually agreeable arrangement. But at all times, if you don't want to be in the agreement that you previously really negotiated very hard for yourself, it's always your right to change it. Don't hold yourself captive to yourself. I had a really good therapist when I was getting divorced from my ex-husband. She was great. Thankful for good therapy, okay? So she always told me to not put a period at the end of my sentence. And when, I would make these declarations, well, I am so-and-so, I was like, I'm a lesbian. Period, and I was, at that time for like 8 years. Now I'm like, okay, well, I'm just me. I don't have to have a period at the end of the sentence. If I do or I don't, then you know what, it's okay. I can wave my flag for 8 years and then decide, you know what, I'm not waving flags anymore, and it's still going to be okay. Because I am allowed and permitted, and in spite of myself sometimes, I'm still going to grow and change and be something different from what I used to be. The question is, am I going to take something and do something with that change? Am I going to, even a flower turns its face to the sun, right? If it's a sunlight needing flower, if it's not a sunlight needing flower, it will turn its face away from the sun. I'm not a gardener, but even nature knows to kind of move into alignment with where it gets its sustenance, into the best habitat that is best for it. If that means it creeps up your walls as an ivy, it knows to move towards the wall just instinctively. We also instinctively know where to move that is in our best alignment. And those times when we're feeling a tension, we're feeling an unease, a dissatisfaction, there must be more. This can't be all there is. I know there's got to be something next. That feeling is part of our minds wanting to creep and extend and to grow and to follow something that will nourish us. And so we can learn to become in tune with ourselves. We can learn to trust our vibes. Something's telling me this isn't going to work for too much longer. Something's telling me that this relationship is not going to work out. Something's telling me that this isn't going to be where I want to live. Upon further review, we have those kind of conversations with ourselves all the time, but sometimes then we turn those off and we ignore or we quash or we say, you know what, who am I? Maybe I'm just overthinking. Maybe I'm just too sensitive. You may be overthinking it and you may be being sensitive. It really could be, but only you know. No one can tell you, oh, you're just too sensitive. Your feelings shouldn't be hurt, right? Oh, you're just overthinking it. Don't be annoyed, right? Don't be paranoid. Only you know. And if you start to externalize your power, then you will be led onto someone else's trellis. You will be coaxed into an environment that isn't necessarily conducive for you to become and to be who you want to be. Oh, I can keep on talking, but if anybody has anything to contribute, please.
Hi, my name's Joelle Garcia. I'm known by several other names, but I'm also a pastor.
Sorry.
I really love what you're saying here because it's so true. A few years ago, I had a Salina icon for the Hispanic community. Both the couple, they had passed away. And at her funeral, I said, we should not let her dream die, and I'm going to do something about it. Well, sometimes you don't want to say things unless you really mean it. So, not too long after that, I went to Mexico to see my brother-in-law, and he said, "You're never going to be the same." I thought, okay. But that's been like 2 years ago, and I cannot get that out of my head. So what's stopping me from my dream is basically like financial, reasons, because, there's not any funds to do what I need to do, and I've had a lot of people ask me why I haven't come back. But everything's a process, because I got a really nice job now, at least I think, and it's one of my dream jobs, and so now I'm a corrections officer. It brings in pretty good money compared to what I was working, before. But when I got the job, I met this gentleman, and him and his wife do this business. It's called Living the Life that you always dreamed of, and it's basically like what you're talking about, but it's through getting financially secure and financially fit, so you can live this life without having to depend on a job. And today when I called my work and they said, well, no, you cannot have Sundays off, I told them, I got this opportunity to pastor a church in Hayes, and I need this certain day. I don't have that option right now, because they basically tell me what hours and stuff that, I have to work, and I have to be satisfied with that. And when I first got the job, I used to cry at work. It was kind of working in a prison. It's a totally different environment from but something clicked in me. It says, God was telling me that this is just a stepping stone. And once I changed my attitude about the whole situation, even though I like the job and what I do, it's not where I'm supposed to be at. I'm supposed to be in Mexico on a mission, doing a mission, helping these people to learn English, do these different stuff. So I'm going to change my attitude. When somebody irritates me, I'm not going to let it bother me no more. I'm not going to let these people dictate my future. This job is my key to get to where I need to be, because now I can get the experience that I need, so I can move to Texas and be closer to Mexico where I should be.
So a challenge.
Yeah.
Here's a challenge in perspective, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Your ultimate goal in what you're doing in Mexico is that you want to help people.
Right.
Now that's a very specific vehicle that you've envisioned.
Mm-hmm.
But the ultimate goal is that you want to change someone's reality.
Right.
So you're still in an environment right now where you are as a compassionate correctional officer,
Right.
who seems to be a fair individual who would do your job without beating another person or without demeaning the people that you are there. So you actually are, through your interactions in any environment, you are being
Right.
who you want to be. But a lot of times you don't recognize it because it doesn't look like exactly how you envisioned it, right? So you're still being you, which is a person who wants to teach, help, serve. What you can ask is to say, allow me to see more of the opportunity around me, because this is where I am right now. If all things are lining up for me to be in the chess game somewhere at a winner's point eventually, then there is something about this dynamic that must be in alignment with my growth and with that I want to contribute to the world.
God has given me the experience in the prison, because the prison itself is a missions field. And I'll tell you one more story, and then I'll sit down. There's an inmate, he went, well actually there's been a few lately, it's been kind of crazy. But one in particular gentleman, he went crazy and he had to be put on crisis level. And I said, Mister, I'm going to pray for you. And I'm going to pray that the Lord does something in your life. Next time I seen him, he's still saved, but he is off crisis level. And so, prayers work, but also compassion. Even if you're not a praying type of person and all that, compassion works. And I think, ma'am, that you're so compassionate to come to Salina, because never everybody thinks that Salina's worth anything. You come all the way from Georgia to talk to us. So
it's where my family lives. So,
yeah.
This is a place that is purposeful in my experience. Like my parents they didn't come here but maybe 20 years ago. I've always lived in Atlanta since that time, but this is where they are. So if people I care about have chosen to plant roots in a place, then there must be something of value about it, because I know, and the connection I feel to my family and people. And the beautiful part is that places like this and conversations like this are everywhere. It's not just in Salina, it could be in McPherson, it could be not even in a town, it could be at the country mailbox on the corner acre or whatever you call it, right? Places where you find out about people, where you find out different ways. We learn a lot through observation. We learn what it's possible to do when we see others do it, and we learn what we sure as hell don't want to do from looking at other people's realities too. I mean, that's the harsh part of the lesson, is that, wow, you really totaled your car. I know I will never drink and drive. You know what I'm saying? You learn from others' kind of train wrecks. But the beautiful part is we learn from our own train wrecks too, right? Those things that, wow, I should never have tried that. Or I don't believe that we should say, I should never have tried that. Because I believe if I thought it, no matter how misguided I later think that, how young and dumb I now realize I was, right? No, I think that at the time I chose the best experience for myself, even if it was a messed up lesson. That maybe I lost my shirt, or, thankfully I've never lost a life or anyone else's, But there are lots of things that could have, should have, would have, went different. But you know what? I decided what I did at the time. And here I am, still alive, and I'm still thriving, and I love my life better now than at any other point that I ever have. And if it gets better than this isn't the end, and that's not to say that it won't have some challenging things, and that I won't need to swim through some mud or to do something that I never expected that might be a lot more difficult than anything that I ever thought could be. That's not to say. But I'm not shying away from that, because it is part of my experience, and I'd rather experience it than not. I'd rather not live whatever the opposite of this growth thing that we get. I'd rather not be in the opposite of stagnancy and complacency or lack of growth. I mean, even a rock changes, right? It weathers. It corrodes, water wears holes through it, it forms crystals. I mean, that's rock. And the change may be so minute and imperceptible that it takes thousands and thousands and thousands of years for it to be evident to our scientific eyes. But it's still changing. And we're way, way more malleable than a rock. You know what I'm saying? So we have a lot of opportunity to shape and mold and move ourselves in ways that are not as harsh as, having to break open. Unfortunately, sometimes to get us out of our place, those break open moments happen. And it's a preference, really, if you can kind of head that off at the pass and maybe have an easier growth process. But sometimes, our harshest things, you'll find out people say, you know what, getting laid off was really turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. Or, you know what, that really pissed me off when I walked in and caught them in bed with each other. But it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me, right? Thank God I left that relationship. I mean, thankfully, hindsight is not necessarily 20/20, but our perspective gets different at each level that something moves behind us. And all of it really is for our growth if we view it as such. If we want to view it as, you know, I'm going to be sick, I know I'm going to catch a cold, we can frame everything that we're experiencing, everything that is coming, everything that we went through, we can frame it in that lens. But we also can frame it through the, I never get sick. I love my life. I feel fulfilled. I'm excited about the next phase of my world. We can be in that space just as easily as we could be in the other one. So my goal is that hopefully through our conversation this evening, it's maybe sparked some ideas in you, got you to thinking about something. Maybe it'll take a couple days for you to replay it as you're in the car. Something might come to you that I've said this evening that you're like, wow, like she said, I just heard living the life you love. Like, that's twice this week I heard about doing such, you know, such and such. And it might be something that is going to come and the seed gets planted that you can watch maybe in 6 months or a year or 5 years from now. Maybe something will sprout from it. And that's certainly my hope. You can find me on Facebook under The Viberarian, and that is V-I-B-E as in energy, R-A-R-I-A-N. So it is like librarian, but it's all high vibe. And on my page and in my community, I like to pass on information that I think is helpful. I have podcasts. I'm currently not broadcasting anything since I've been here in Salina, but I have podcasts on BlogTalkRadio where I talk about all kinds of current awareness events. The Viberarian show, it's kind of like a Indiana Jones meets the X-Files. So I talk about everything from mysterious conspiracies to astrology, numerology, metaphysics. I mean, just pretty much anything that somebody wants to talk about. I love to hear stories from people. I also read books online, chapter books, pages and stages, and just books that I found that are out of print or obscure, and every Sunday I'll read a few chapters so that you can catch that as well. And then I also have a show called The Psychic Inside Show, and each episode of that I interview a different person who has uncovered in themselves psychic gifts and abilities. And this can be everything from healing gifts, experiences of seeing, like there's a couple ghost hunters have been on the show. It's just really fascinating stories to hear people who are experiencing a very different life that it's plenty of adventures and stories. So that's on my podcast as well. And what I believe in my logo and expression is that there is something in each one of us that we are to share with the world. Something unique that by our being, our very fact that we're here, it is something that the world was made better for our presence. We may not know what our thing is yet that we're contributing, but just by being our happy-dappy little selves, we really are like helping humanity. We don't have to be Mother Teresa. We can just be a smile and a compassionate experience for someone else. Someone playing checkers in a bookstore, enjoying a delicious coffee, listening to open mic night. By doing that, then we are definitely shining our light. So in my tree, I believe that we're all connected. And Viberary is where I am bringing together people and trying to help you to bring your light to the world in a way that you feel is comfortable. And if you have any questions at all about anything that I've spoken about, please reach out to me on my Facebook page. I'll answer your message and send you a packet of information filled with whatever references I have about a particular subject. And I'm happy to be able to pass things on to you that I've learned and come across. So, does anybody have any questions? I don't even know what time it is. So. All right. Well, thanks. What time is it? Okay. Excellent. I really appreciate you coming out this evening. My name is Joelle again, and I hope to connect with you in the future. And please tell everybody about Astra. Tell everybody about this space. Look at the wall and see who else is going to be here. And just enjoy this beautiful slice of a reality that we've all chosen to create. It's truly, truly beautiful. So, namaste to all of you.
Namaste. I have one question.
Yes.
Where can you get a t-shirt?
Oh, this is my first T-shirt. My graphic person, I got when I took my sabbatical. Well, I call it a sabbatical, but basically I left my job and used part of my retirement to give myself a year off work because I said, you know what? At 43, 44 at the time, I said, I've got 25 years until I can retire. It'll do me more good now to take a year off than it would for me to continue. So I took a year off, and I was sitting in Atlanta paying all this money every month. And I thought, I can do something different. I know I can live cheaper. So I got online, and I was like, where can you live for X amount of dollars a month? And all these places like Thailand and Vietnam and places came up, and I was like, I'm not ready for that yet. You know, it was just too much. So I said, let me go to Mexico. It was close, an easy flight, and I knew that Playa del Carmen had a lot of English-speaking people. So I up and packed my bags and went to Mexico for 6 months. I didn't know that it was like part of my call and development to experience all that, but something just told me go to Mexico. That's when my parents thought I really, and my friends, you know, they're like, what are you doing? You're gonna just go by yourself in Mexico? I was like, yeah, what could go wrong, right? So I went down there and I met all these wonderful people playing music, creating things. And so this gentleman, Christopher, I was introduced to him through his wife. Her last name was Solar, like the sun. And I had just come from Chichen Itza, the pyramid, which is like the sun gods and the Mayan stuff. And I was like, oh, Solar, what a cool last name. And then he says, you know, I design graphics. And I look and it turns out he did all these holistic businesses that I had been going to like all summer. He did all their menus and their logos, and his designs were so amazing. I said, do you think you could do my website? Sure. So I've been working with him, and he did my Viberarian brand, which is basically the book here, the Lotus of Enlightenment, and then this part is usually over that. That's the Viberarian, and then there's a tree that has the branches of our arms giving out to the world from our illumined self, from our lit up self, our passionate self. So that's my tree logo, and he was able to really encapsulate that. And this is the shirt that I asked him to create or design for me. So it contains all of the elements, and this is my very first printing and very first wearing of it. So I'm really super excited because here he is, a person who's creating out of his gifts, his talent, that I can't draw stick figures. He's able to understand the concepts I want to create something beautiful. So I'm super excited because it's evidence to me of the kind of reality that I'm talking about and existing in. It's like really right here. So I will be making an announcement when the mugs and the shirts come on my Viberarian page. So please, you know, like, comment, and share, kind of connect with me there. I would love for you to have a shirt. I'm super excited. And it's true. You know, they say birds of a feather flock together, right? You lie down with dogs, you get up with fleas, right? So if you hear all these common sayings and all that, is your vibe attracts your tribe. But it's true. Like, you can walk in a place and feel very uncomfortable. I don't like the vibe in there. they're dark in there and the energy just isn't good. You may not have the words for it, but there's something inside of you that tells you. And then other places you walk in, you're like, my people, where have you been? You know, so places like this, when I walked in, I was like, oh, look at the red shoes, right? And the thing about the red shoes, what did Glenda tell Dorothy? It was in you all the time. It was in you all the time, right? That's truly, like part of it's in us. What do you want to do? She said, close your eyes. Envision where you want to be. And it'll be almost like a miracle because the chess pieces will move. And then you can go home, you can be around the people who are in your tribe on a daily basis. You can craft your reality to be around people, you know, who you feel good around, an environment that makes you feel happy. Nature wants us to be happy and vibrant. It wants sunflowers to be yellow. It doesn't want them to be black, right? Otherwise, it would have made them black in color and made them beautiful. But it made them yellow and vibrant. Everything is at the frequency when it's at its best, how it was made to be. So your frequency is meant to be open, receptive, open to the rain, open to the sun, reaching out, growing. That's like really where we're supposed to be. And anything that takes us out of that kind of dynamic is actually unnatural. And if we learn to foster our natural sense of direction, learn to follow the sunlight, even when you don't see it behind the clouds, you can kind of feel it. We can learn to really tap in, trust ourselves, and follow that navigational point. So please definitely connect with me.
You can figure out how to